All right, well, thanks for joining us for our February installment of the Better Together webinar series. We are delighted today to have a great team of folks talking about the Richmond Region Tourism Master Plan. So thanks to our guests today, we're mixing it up a little bit with a new format. We're going to have a panel still, but it's going to be moderated by a guest of ours. So Neil Amin from Shaman Hotels, we're so glad to have you today. And I'm going to let you introduce our panelists, but first, I'll just give a little bit of background. Plan RVA launched the Better Together webinar series in November of last year. And we're really excited to be able to showcase the examples of partnership and collaboration that are happening in our region on a daily basis to make this region better. And thank you to each of you for the work that you're doing to improve our community. And we're really excited that Plan RVA has had a chance to be a part of the Tourism Master Plan in its development and now also in the subcommittee work. So thanks so much for being with us. We'll jump right into the panel and do introductions and then some conversation. And then I think we'll wrap up with a little bit of Q&A. So Neil?
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having us here today. We have some great panelists here that really need no introduction, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Maybe Dan, you can go ahead and stop.
Sure. Thanks, Neil. And good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here. Glad to join you all. As a quick piece of an introduction, I just want to make a mention of a unique perspective that I get to put on the spin on tourism and on regional cooperation. And as a local business owner, Neil, much like yourself, I get to see it from a visitor and a business perspective of what tourism means to our region as a whole and what it really means for our region to work together in an effort to be coordinated in that goal. From a second perspective, of course, I get to serve the residents of Henrico County on the Board of Supervisors. I love doing it. It's a passion for me, not a job. And this year, I'm fortunate enough to serve as chairman of the board. And it just gives me yet another opportunity to do some good work here with the region. And then finally, I'm fortunate enough to serve as chair of Richmond Region Tourism. And it's an electric group of individuals who really serve everyone but themselves. I mean, it's a constant collaboration of a group of people who try to work on behalf of the region. Neil, I know you know it well because you served in that seat. So glad to be here. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for bringing that dual vision to this panel. Maybe we can go to Jack Berry, CEO of Richmond Region Tourism.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you all. I'm Jack Berry. I'm president, and it's the privilege to be in charge of this organization. As Dan had mentioned, it's just a wonderful organization. We have just an all-star cast because in a destination marketing organization, you're responsible for promoting the destination. And all of my people are recruited by other destinations throughout the country. So my challenge is to keep everybody here. That's my job. And one of my all-stars is Catherine O'Donnell, who I'll turn it over to her for her introduction.
Thanks, Jack. Great to be with everyone today. I'm Catherine O'Donnell, Executive Vice President at Richmond Region Tourism. I've been with the company for almost 20 years in a number of roles, but it's been my pleasure and honor to watch our destination grow and thrive and be part of the team that gets to promote it and share it with others as they come to our community and make our lives better by spending their money and supporting our local businesses. So glad to be with everybody today and talk about our tourism master plan. Thanks.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'll introduce myself. I'm Neil Amin, CEO of Amin Hotels. Born and raised in Richmond and proud to have that, on my resume, and excited to be here with this panel today. So let's jump right into it. As the region's first tourism master plan, Richmond Region 2030 will provide important guidance for a long-term future as a community. Before we dig into the plan, Jack, would you like to provide a brief overview of Richmond Region Tourism for those listening that might not be as familiar?
So we're a destination marketing organization. And back in the 1970s and the 1980s, the Chamber of Commerces throughout the country were responsible for that. And Richmond Renaissance, based in downtown Richmond, in 1983 commissioned a study to look at the cooperation of the region to promote the destination. So we are 38 years old, and the original partners, of course, are Chesterfield, Hanover, Henrico, and the city of Richmond. And over time, we've expanded our footprint, changed our name many, many times to today it's Richmond Region Tourism, but we've included New Kent County, Ashland, and just recently Colonial Heights. So now we have 7 jurisdictions located in the metropolitan planning footprint. And just to remind everybody on this call, we are still a destination on fire. Last January in 2020, the New York Times came out with the article about the 52 cities in the world to visit in 2020, and we know what happened there. However, that time I really had, and we had also conferred with others, the 4 hottest cities in the country were Austin, Texas, Nashville, Portland, and Richmond. And we were 39th on the list from the New York Times, and Paris was 31. So we were only 7 cities off of Paris. Well, of course, you know what's happened. The pandemic, of course, came, but we are still on fire. In January, Travel and Leisure magazine for 2021 came out with the top 50 destinations to visit in 2021, and Richmond's in the top 30 cities to visit this summer. As well as 2 weeks ago, a real Bible of the travel industry is Condé Nast. It's a tremendous travel publication. And they said, if you're in your January doldrums, here are 8 destinations to visit for a romantic getaway in February. And they had Sri Lanka, they had Barbados, they had Yosemite, and yes, they had Richmond, Virginia. So it continues on the momentum, and you'll hear through this how really we're coming out of this very, very excited and very energized, and things are going to look great for 2021. Thank you.
Well, that's great, Jack. And I think you bring up a good point that, we've really expanded the reach of Richmond region tourism by adding these jurisdictions. I think it shows that people value tourism. Business leaders have realized that it's important to improve the quality of life for their residents. So congratulations on all those great accolades. And, as a longtime RRT board member, I've seen over the years that our organization has always been regionally minded. Taking a regional approach to tourism makes so much sense to leverage the financial investment as well as our variety of tourism resources. They all kind of work together to bring that critical mass and enable people to come visit our great region. And visitors don't know our borders. That's something that only we know. So Catherine, after such a strong history of collaboration in tourism, how did the Tourism Master Plan come about?
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, we have had such a strong history, and it's interesting. In 2018, our organization and our board participated in an assessment called Destination Next, and actually the community participated too, to really understand the community's trajectory as a tourism destination overall. And we scored in the highest quadrant, which may be not surprising, based on what Jack has just been saying, what you've been saying about regional collaboration. And we were known as a trailblazer. And that meant that our community was engaged in tourism and that our destination was performing at a high level. And the one piece that was missing from our score was this idea of a long-term tourism master plan that would really enable us to intentionally plan for the future of our success in tourism. I think our success has been so great over the years and has come more organically. And so the idea was really to help us shape that future going forward. So that led to a process to create what we now call Richmond Region 2030, the Tourism Master Plan. And the process was really designed to help residents and stakeholders articulate and share a clear vision for the future. This is really important because when people share a vision, then it gives them a shared belief, a shared purpose and passion. And we really want this to be for and by the community. So we worked with a great team of consultants that asked really important key questions of stakeholders in 115 interviews. We surveyed 1,000 visitors, we surveyed 2,000 residents, and hosted 50 people on visioning workshops. So I think we can fairly say that it was a very comprehensive and inclusive process to make sure that all voices were heard. And really the key here is that the process and the plan itself are designed around regional collaboration. Our region helped drive the content, and it will really take the region to make it happen. This is not a plan that Richmond Region Tourism can do alone.
That's great, Catherine. It's obvious that a lot of great work went into crafting the Tourism Master Plan. So thank you for your leadership on that very important initiative. And Dan, of course, as chairman, I know you're intricately involved in the Tourism Master Plan. Thank you for creating some tremendous committees and really keeping the process moving. Where are we now in the process?
So, Neil, you just heard Catherine mention all the great work that went into that. I remember those interviews. I mean, there's so much research and so much input has gone into this that it truly feels as though it's been a grassroots kind of build. And as you know, Neil, there's a lot of great work that's going into that as we're splitting up committees. Let's talk about this past summer and fall a little bit. You know, the world took what I would call a pause, right? The world almost just paused for COVID. And we discussed it, and you know, the travel industry had all been shuttered for this period of time. You know, in discussions with our leadership group and when with Jack and Catherine, we decided that it might actually offer us an opportunity to do what maybe nobody else is doing. While everybody else kind of takes the knee, this group has decided to emerge with strength, and that is work on this master plan, get the pieces nailed down, and really put the goalposts up and form a framework to move forward when the world is ready. And this group's been working really, really hard behind the scenes so that when we're ready to reemerge, we're going to be able to reemerge with strength. Let's talk about what the plan really is. And there's 5 key goals, I think, that need to be talked about to summarize what the master plan is all about. So first and foremost, let's talk about it from a visitor experience piece. All right, this is about how we create a must-visit destination and what we do to use the culture and the character of what our region offers in order to create an experience that people, A, want to come see, and then B, after they come see it, they want to come back and they want to tell others about it. So a visitor experience is one of the first key pillars that we're trying to make sure that we maintain our eyes on all the time. The second thing is the quality of life. How do we use these amenity and improvements and all this work we put into making our region a great place to visit? How do we use that to improve and add to a high quality of life for the folks who live here? They can go hand in hand. Tourism is not just about attracting people to come visit your area and leaving. It's about making your area a great place to live as well. And those amenities go hand in hand. You see it in some of the facilities we're building, and they're able to be used for tourism purposes, but they also benefit the community. The third is a key piece, and I know we work so closely with Brian and the chamber on this, and it's the workforce. And when you talk about tourism and you talk about making your region a better place, you have to make your region a better place at the same time to visit. You make it a better place to live. And when you make it a better place to live, it becomes a very desired place to do business. So all these things can go hand in hand. And that's the third piece of what we're trying to work on. The fourth is growth. This master plan has to be sustainable beyond the 10-year plan. It has to be prepared for growth. It has to be inclusive of all the regions and all the partners we have. And it needs to be able to be grown throughout the process. And finally, it's about investment. How do we as a group promote private investment in our region to make these things possible, while at the same time coordinating it with public infrastructure investment on behalf of the jurisdictions that we represent? So, those are the key things. Those are the key priorities and goals. And how we did that, Neil, as you mentioned, we formed some really key committees, and I'm really proud of the work these folks have done, again, in a time where we could have taken a break. We're going to thank ourselves, and we're going to thank the members of these committees coming out of this because of the work being done. First, the Experience Development Committee led by Dennis Bickmeyer. Dennis's group is working on tourism in its shell of cultural tourism, adventure tourism, and sports tourism. And they're working on several key components of how we drive that project. The second committee is our Infrastructure and Investment Committee. What unbelievable work is going on, Neil, by your group that you're leading, and you're co-chairing it with Ellen Robertson from the city. Terrific work as you guys focus on the headquarters hotel, the Greater Richmond Convention Center, the James River itself, placemaking, and how we sports facilities. And then a big piece of it is the connectivity and the mobility of how we interconnect these pieces. And then finally, the third committee that was formed was the Industry Advancement and Advocacy Committee, led by Brian Anderson of the Chamber and Jim Holland, the chair of Chesterfield Board of Supervisors. Some terrific work they're doing as they focus on meetings and conventions, the resident perception, tourism investment, diversity and inclusion, and workforce development. So the work that's going on in those committees are forming the pieces led by members of Richmond Region tourism staff as we blend it all together. And one last piece I want to add is these committees, the first thing they did is reach out deeper into the community and get more people. Neil, I know your group did it, Dennis's group did it, and I know Jim and Brian did it, to get more inclusive input. They reached further out into users and stakeholders, and they added strength to their committee. This is truly an inclusive voice, and it's one movement moving forward as a region, not just one piece.
That's great. I mean, those are some tremendous, initiatives. And I really value the point that you make about how tourism supports the quality of life for our residents. You know, obviously the sports facility in Henrico, River City Sportsplex in Chesterfield, that enables the residents to have fields to practice on. And of course, the Richmond restaurant scene that we have, I don't think we have those restaurants without tourists coming in and supporting those restaurants when we have conventions and other events. So thank you for really creating some great work there. As you mentioned, I chair the Infrastructure and Investment Committee with Councilwoman Ellen Robertson, and our committee is really starting to dig deep into some important topics. We're working with the area officials to explore the future of the Convention Center District downtown. We're getting some updates on sports tourism developments and learning about potential long-term game changers for our community. And it's definitely exciting to see the work of the plan get underway. There's really a lot of great opportunities. We have somebody from VCU on our committee who's talking about the athletic village. That's a very exciting project. I think all of us will really work well together to bring more visitors to our region. But of course, we have to mention that this industry has been very challenged with COVID. So Jack, how has COVID-19 impacted the implementation of Richmond Region 2030?
So it's interesting because we were ready to roll out the tourism master plan, and then all of a sudden got slammed by the COVID. And then actually it was fortuitous because now we have a roadmap to guide us through this pandemic. And the one beautiful thing about the Richmond region is we have 4 strong pillars of travel. And when 9/11 hit back, 2001, came to a screeching stop. And then when the banks collapsed in 2008, the same thing happened. But out of those 2 incidents, we came back faster as a travel destination than a lot of other destinations. So we, with the tourism master plan, with our pillars of travel, we think we're going to come out of this quicker than most. And just to reemphasize, the 4 pillars are family and friends, which is the #1 reason people travel. 2 is meetings, conventions, and sports tourism. 3rd is business travel. And then the last are tourists and interstate travel. And so with family and friends, already, I think if everybody who's watching this, if you've done any traveling in the last 11 months, I would bet to say that was regarding to visit a family or a friend and nothing more, no business related. But family and friends is going to be very strong. And we've also been testing the sentiment of the traveler. And the beauty is with the vaccination rollout, and now with the wonderful distribution for that, and just credit Dan Schmidt, who's doing a marvelous job in the region as one of his many hats, but the distribution of the vaccination is giving travelers confidence throughout the country that 81% of travelers will now anticipate taking a trip within the next 6 months. This coming July, the indications are July will be a huge month of travel returning. But again, we've not really skipped a beat in these 11 months. We've had tremendous sports tourism throughout these 11 months, so much so that the next 2 weeks, we have the ultimate soccer tournament in February and going into March. And then we have the sold out business of the Jefferson Cup for the 4 weekends in March. And we've got field hockey coming to the convention center in not this weekend, but the next. But even the convention center, even though you think it might be quiet, we've had 10 events, all sports related at the convention center since January. And we only have 1 open weekend. This is the open weekend, but the weekends are booked between now and the end of April, and most of them are sports related. So as the sentiment grows, as family and friends start to come out, we will rebound faster than most. But again, because it's such a great destination and family and friends is driving this, and we have, as Neil said perfectly, what's driving this is the food scene in the restaurants. And we also have to really have all our listeners support our restaurants to make them flourish.
Well, thank you, Jack. And I agree. I mean, COVID is just a temporary blip. Richmond is a place where families want to live. And if families live here, the businesses will relocate here. You'll have attractions and restaurants that will want to spring up, and people want to visit those family members. So we have a constant influx of tourism. And I want to say thank you for all your hard work on the sports tourism events. We actually had a hotel that was oversold this coming weekend, and it was the greatest news that I'd ever heard, in some time. So thank you for all that. So I guess staying on that topic, Catherine, has RRT adjusted the timing of the items in the plan that will lead as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, Neil, that's a great question. And as we mentioned before, a lot of the items in the plan are going to be large in scope and require significant regional collaboration. But there are some areas of the plan that make sense to be led by Richmond Region Tourism. Things like sports tourism or our internal diversity, equity, and inclusion work, community pride, items like that. And yes, we have shifted the time frame on some of them. There are a couple of examples, one particularly in the area of community pride / resident sentiment. We, as many may know, have had a long-term successful program called I Am Tourism, which previously before COVID was a half-day workshop to really engage our residents in what there is to see and do in the Richmond region. Going back to Jack's point that we know friends and family is the number one reason people come here. We want our locals to be engaged in what there is to see and do here. And it's been wildly popular. We actually launched it back in tandem with the bike race in 2015, which seems like a long time ago now. Well, we had in the plan that in 5 years from now, we would do a virtual version of I Am Tourism so we could reach more people. And because of COVID, we launched that in October. So that's a pretty extreme example where we had one program that was a long-term priority became an immediate one because of the pandemic. And we think that, having our residents be engaged and feel comfortable and be excited and passionate about going back out in the community will be critical for recovery. Again, to Jack's point, we want the community to be going out and feeling comfortable when they're ready and then therefore inviting friends and family. We're also going to be doing in April a local advertising campaign. And this is very unusual for us. We rarely ever spend any of our advertising dollars in our community because our whole job is to promote the Richmond region to people who don't live here. So we call those people out of market. So you'll never see our ads because they're always out of market. Well, now we really believe that what we need to do is a small campaign, and it's very small compared to what we'll be spending out of market, but in the community, again, to help lift pride and help remind everybody about what they love about the entire region and why we all love living here, to encourage folks to get back out as the weather warms up, as more people are vaccinated, as it's safe to do so. We know so many of our museums and attractions and restaurants have taken the protocols very seriously and can provide safe experiences. And so we will be doing a campaign locally. And again, that's something that has shifted because of COVID and the time frame. And another area that we accelerated was our business event recruitment strategy. So there's a section of the plan that dives into aligning recruiting meetings and conventions with economic development. So we have a whole team of folks whose job it is to work with meeting planners to convince them to bring their event to the Richmond region. And of course, we will take any and all meetings that would like to meet in the Richmond region. But the idea here is that we really target groups that fall within specific economic development sectors that will be beneficial not only for the economic impact of the meeting, but also for the possible economic development that could stem from having these site selectors come and meet in our region. So kind of taking it at a different look and a win-win look at recruiting these meetings and conventions. So this program is called Meaningful Meetings, and we accelerated that as a result of COVID, just because we believe that meetings and convention will play such a strong and important role in recovery once we're able to hold meetings for the governor's guidelines. And also knowing that many of these meetings take many years to recruit. And Neil, you know this as well as anybody, that we can be talking with a group now for their convention in 2023. So it's not too early to be working with our economic development folks and thought leaders in the community about the groups that they prioritize wanting to bring here to show off our community to them. So I'd say those are the three top ones that have changed from COVID. They're all in the plan, but we just sort of shifted around the prioritization as a result of wanting to move recovery forward faster.
I think those are some great ideas. And, I'll say, I know a lot of localities are looking at Richmond and our outdoor assets that we have, the river, and those are now coming into play more and more for conferences and for visits. And, I think that will help us down the road for sure. So thank you for your hard work on that. So, while a lot of progress has been made by our RIT staff, most of the plan actually addresses priorities and areas of development that require a regional effort of collaboration across many partners. And Dan, you are extremely well respected by your regional peers. What is the outlook for larger regional priorities?
Yeah, Neil, the outlook I think is bright, and while this is a 10-year plan, right, and these things take time, facilities take time to plan to build, uh, but I want to make sure folks on this call and spread the word, help us with this. While this is a 10-year plan, this region is ready and poised to do the work and launch now. And we have to be cognizant as we plan where we're going to be 10 years from now of what's going on now. And let me explain that. The signs are already in front of us, right? We have to recognize what we're looking at. Let me give you a couple quick examples. One, let's talk about the collective agreement among all jurisdictions on the focus of where our convention center is, the need for a headquarters hotel, and there's some great work being done by our infrastructure and investment committee. And Neil, the discussion that's going on around that center as we draw people to that core, there is agreement across the board. We need to be strong there. This region is ready to make sure we're strong there, and it's collaborative. And I have not heard one iota about anybody not believing that's critically important to us. And we're ready to talk about that now. We are talking about that now, as you know. The second thing is, let's talk about sports facility development, right? The sports tourism facility development. The writing is on the wall here. We're seeing it. Look at the great things Chesterfield's doing with River City Sports Complex. Neil, you mentioned it a minute ago. Chesterfield's on the run with continuing to give us facilities and infrastructure to promote tourism in our region. They're doing it, and they're sprinting forward, and we need to address that and make sure it's part of our plan. The city, as you mentioned, with VCU Athletic Village, working closely with VCU and baseball conversations, the city is ready to participate with how we draw people to our city, how we use amenities in the city, and there's regional collaboration and cooperation ready to go on that. Look at what New Kent has done, and I know Patricia's proud of it. We're all proud of it with reinventing and rejuvenating what we have at Colonial Downs. In horse racing and in being able to utilize that property as a regional amenity. How can we promote the horse racing season and how we get that done? A huge benefit to our region and great work being done by New Kent. Here in Henrico, we have ongoing efforts with Glover Park. We're not even done. We're not even halfway done making that a facility that we can use for tourism. Taylor Park is ready to come on board with a $20 million investment from the county in sports tourism, where Belmont is going through an unbelievable upgrade by First Tee of Richmond, of Greater Richmond, and that's going to draw tournaments and high school golf tournaments right here to our town. And then, of course, our indoor facility that we're planning up at Virginia Center Commons, right on the Hanover border. So, filling hotels, filling restaurants in all these areas. The region we're not planning for these things. We're doing them. They're ready to go. So it's here and it's now. The third point is there's an exciting eco district being planned right in the Brook Road corridor. It'll be anchored by a 17,000 seat regional arena, and let's get Richmond back on the map in this regard. That facility being centered right there where it's at on Brook Road, tremendous for Hanover, for Chesterfield, for Richmond, for Henrico, for our entire region to draw those mainstream acts again in the larger shows. And then, fourth, there is unanimous support regionally right now to bring downtown back to life. Downtown has suffered through COVID. It's suffered through social unrest in the summer. The region stands prepared to understand that downtown area is our hub. It is our core. We need to restore confidence in downtown and get that done now. And no one's waiting 10 years for that. We're ready to go now on that. And then finally, all these efforts are ready to go now for a 10-year plan, and they can feel wind in their sails because of a complementary regional project initiative that's going on right now, and that's the CVTA. So Central Virginia Transit Authority is coming on board. We're already seeing the benefits of it. And that is only going to provide wind in the sails of how we sell this region and how we promote it and how we connect it. The connectivity and the mobility we just talked about, that our committees are planning for. We're ready. It's a 10-year plan, but Neil, know now these regional partners, I get energized every time I get to talk about this because we're prepared. The pieces are in place, and there's really no reason we can't move on some of this stuff right now.
That's great, Dan. Thank you so much. And it definitely feels like, there's definitely more interest in regional collaboration now than there ever has been. And, I think your mention about Green City, I mean, that's probably going to benefit Hanover just as much as it's going to benefit Henrico. So that shows that there's already regional collaboration in place. So thank you with that. So it sounds like, and this is an exciting time to be in RVA with all of this great momentum, great regional collaboration. I'll tell you from a personal level at Shamin Hotels, we're all in. I mean, we remain very bullish on the region. We have over $200 million worth of tourism projects under development, including the first Moxie in the state that should open later this year. We have obviously the Stonebridge Hotel and Conference Center in Chesterfield. We have numerous projects in Henrico, and we have some unannounced projects that we're excited to showcase here in the near future. So Jack, why don't you close us out with your outlook on tourism for the Richmond region?
So thank you, Neil. And so I think everybody on this call really wants to get back to where we were. And I was so excited today because I got an email from the Squirrels. They've announced the baseball schedule for this summer. And I am thrilled. But also, every year we do a VCU study on tourism, and we find out what's the highest occupied day of the year. And we have 18,000 hotel rooms in the region. And always the number 1, 2, or 3, and last year, or not last year, but in 2019, it's NASCAR. And NASCAR's got a race coming up in April. We have got to have the governor relax the capacity because that is so critical to our travel and tourism industry, for the restaurants, for the attract, for the hotels. But again, it gets us back to normalcy. And with all that's being done, we are going to come out of this faster. And it's interesting because everybody on this call are cheerleaders for the region. We love to live, work, and play and visit the destination. And so we encourage you all, in thinking of your July travel, don't go, have your friends and family come here and stay at Neil's hotels and eat at our restaurants and go to a Squirrels game. And there's plenty to do at the museums and go down to the river. But again, every single major event we've had is a result of a local citizen cheerleader bringing that here. So it's been a pleasure to be with you all. We all are passionate about the destination. It is the best destination, and we will soon be among Nashville, Austin, and Richmond. Thank you. Oh, and also, Catherine would say, richmondregion2030.com.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I know, so she hit me from the box here.
That's right. Yes, if you want to see the entire plan and all the background research, richmondregion2030.com.
Well, thanks guys so much. If not, I'm so, I can feel Dan's enthusiasm coming through this paint. So I'm really excited about, again, the opportunity to be a part of this effort. We've got a couple of questions coming through on the chat, but I will warm things up for folks to get ready to ask their questions. Just kind of curious if you can do a quick recap. How many partners are involved currently in the implementation of the plan?
That's a great question, Martha. So I would say that each committee probably has about 10 to 12 folks on it. I don't have the number exactly on the top of my head, but I'd say average about 10 to 12 people, and they all represent different organizations. And so that would be my guess.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right. And there's really good cooperation and private-public partnership on each committee too. So there's jurisdictional leaders in there, there's private business owners in there, there's stakeholders. It's a really good mix.
Thank you. Catherine, before I forget, we did have one question that came in, asked if we could send the link out the chat. So I can do that if you want to repeat it, or if you want to do that, that would be really helpful.
Yep, I'll stick it in the chat right now.
Thank you, appreciate that. So the first question that we've got is, how has the pivot to more virtual meetings affected meeting related travel? I think, Jack, you were talking about that a little bit, but Mila and Jack want to talk about a little bit what you're seeing and what you might expect going forward. Do you think meetings will still have a virtual component, or is everyone just so ready to get back into person?
Well, I'll defer to Neil, but from what we're looking at is that, again, think of the 4 pillars of travel and the meetings and conventions. There have been, the governor has mandated no more than 10 people per room. And so meetings and conventions have just come to a stop. And as soon as those barriers are lifted, we can get back into meetings in person. But I dare say there will be a component of virtual with in-person meetings. Martha, like your board, like you'll be meeting virtually, but eventually you'll be meeting in person, probably a combination of both to get into that. But for the meeting industry, they're targeting the 3rd quarter of July, August, September of 2021. And Neil, do you want to maybe chime in on that too?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, and I think I think obviously as people get vaccinated, they'll be more and more likely to participate in in-person meetings. I guess longer term, what we're seeing is that there's talk our meeting's going to be replaced by virtual, and we don't believe so. It's a very competitive industry, so you can imagine you're trying to solicit a client. One group has a meeting virtually, another group goes to visit the client in person. Who is the client really going to work with? And that's kind of what we see happening. We saw a lot of the same talk after 2001, after 9/11, when people said, people may be scared to travel, there's going to be less meetings, and that was very short-lived. So I think the same trends will be true in this scenario as well.
I'll just quickly jump in and add that we are working, so we have a team of folks on our convention services team that works with groups after they commit to coming to the Richmond region to help them execute their meetings. And many of our clients are working on hybrid and virtual meetings now. And we actually have one of our folks get certified as a digital event strategist. So he's able to help our clients navigate. And some of them that were supposed to have meetings this spring have gone totally virtual, but they've been able to incorporate pieces of the Richmond region. We're sending, gift baskets and swag that has Richmond. They're using Richmond vendors. So we're still trying to incorporate as much of Richmond as we can in these virtual meetings. And then I think the next phase will be a hybrid and then fully in person. But I think that even when we go to fully in person, folks will still expect some type of virtual option, some type of broadcast. If anything, it might just further the reach. You'll have the same people attend, but then you'll be able to reach others. Maybe if a company couldn't send 5 people, they could send 1 person and the other 4 could watch from back at home. I think that will be something that will remain in the future.
Thanks. I continue to just be so impressed with the forward-looking, view that you guys are taking. It was talked about earlier, but it's just exciting to think about how our communities are coming together to see the possibilities of what the future could hold, as opposed to, I think, Dan, you said, taking a knee, and it's just great to have your leadership. So thank you for that. I'm anxiously awaiting other questions to come in. So those of you that are attendees, welcome to either raise your hand or type a chat in and we can acknowledge you. You can ask a question directly to the panel, or I can read the question that you type. And while we're waiting for those questions to come in, could you do a hit list a little bit again? You spoke about briefly, but we've got a number of local elected officials here on the session. Just kind of curious, what would be the top 2 to 3 things that you'd like them to do to help move this effort forward?
Oh, I'm happy to take that one. And so from a jurisdictional perspective and from an elected official perspective, it is about a couple things. First and foremost, it's about being an ambassador for this region. You can call it a cheerleader, you can call it whatever it is you want, but at every single opportunity that we get to speak to leaders above us, we had Senator Warner here yesterday, and we got, you take every second you can to share a message. And as an elected leader, you get the opportunity to share that up and you get to share that down. And when we're talking to our staff, to our residents, we got to cheerlead and be an ambassador for this region. Catherine mentioned the effort that we're putting into having pride in our region again and really bringing back and having the confidence in downtown. As leaders, we have to promote that. And if we speak it and we live it and we show it, it begins to resonate. Anytime a resident tells me that it's not important what any other jurisdiction does, I remind them of what Neil said a minute ago, is that my kids don't know a boundary. When they go to a Squirrels game, they don't care if it's in Henrico or Richmond. They don't. They don't care. They just want to go with their friends. When they go to Topgolf, they don't know. It is, and Topgolf is a good example. just half the people, more than half the people I talk to do not know if Topgolf is in Scotts Addition in the city or if it's in Henrico. Well, it's in the Brooklyn district in Henrico, but people don't, Neil's right. They don't understand that. They don't care, and they should not. So as elected officials, we have to preach the fact that our region has no boundaries, and every single chance we get, we should push that. We're doing it right now in ways as we treat COVID, as we shoot vaccinations in arms. You know, I stood on Dennis Bickmeyer's property at Richmond Raceway for the last few weeks, and I've watched shots go in arms of teachers, and nobody cares if they're Hanover teachers, City of Richmond teachers, Henrico teachers, or Chesterfield teachers. They're going in their arms. You sit down, you roll up your sleeve, you get a shot, and so we can get these kids back in school. And stuff like that is what regional leaders, regional jurisdictional elected officials should be talking about. And that's what I'll talk about every chance you give me.
Well, thank you for that. And I'll let the listeners at home know that that was not a primed a primed comment. That was a genuine response from Mr. Schmidt. So I appreciate that. We do have a question. What is the outlook for funding as you look to implement the new initiatives from the Tourism Master Plan?
Well, again, the beauty about Richmond Region is that it's a pooling of resources from the 7 jurisdictions. If you look at Northern Virginia, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, Loudoun County, they're all silos. They all support their own individual. And so when you go to Northern Virginia, you don't know, I don't know if I'm in Arlington, Alexandria, but they don't cooperate. In Tidewater, it's the same thing. Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Hampton are all independent. So we pool the resources here. The jurisdictions have been very, very generous for our budgets. We've really not skipped a beat because we've never laid anybody off during the pandemic, but we've been busier than ever because we have content for the new advertising coming this March. We have incentive dollars for enticing other businesses coming, but there's also our investment. But the other thing, when you ask about what these the politicians could do, in these 7 jurisdictions, they already are investing into the infrastructure. We would be really hard pressed if we would say, gee, you know, we need a field house. Well, guess what? We've got a field house coming. Well, we need an arena. Well, we've got an arena coming. Well, we need more square fields, or we need more river walks, or we need more horse racing. All of these are taking place because of the aggressiveness of the jurisdictions to make it a better place for their citizens, but at the same time, they're making it a great destination for our visitors. And they're, so the monies are invested into us, but it's also into the infrastructure to promote to the visitor.
Thanks, Jack. Dan, maybe a little bit of a follow-up on that. What is the expected time frame to begin the new arena and hopefully completion?
Yeah, so the brief overview is the county transferred the land to our Economic Development Authority this past month. And now our Henrico EDA will work to sell the land to the developers. It's 100% private investment. No county tax dollars are going into the project. It's going to be a wonderful project, but the timeline looks like they'll probably sell the bonds. For the arena will be the beginning part. It'll be the anchor tenant, and it'll go up front. The commercial pieces and the residential pieces will come behind. They'll probably sell the bonds. They're scheduled to sell them in 2023, and it's probably a 24-month build. I think that an aggressive target would be the end fall or winter of 2025. Realistically, maybe early 2026. And as a final note, whatever they need to do to help with that, I'll have a hard hat, a shovel, and gloves, and I'll be ready to rock and roll.
That's great. Another question came in. Could you elaborate on a little bit more on the role you think the CVTA might play in supporting and expanding tourism?
Absolutely. They're thrilled to. And the CVTA is going to drive resources for us on connectivity and mobility and how we work as a region, how we move people around. So it is critically important that we understand how bus traffic affects Green City. We're going to put a 17,000 seat arena on Brook Road. We've got to figure out how to move people to and from that. Bus service up and down the Route 1 corridor up to VCC to an indoor facility. How do we get them back to hotels? How do we get them to restaurants and get them in and out of that facility? That is one key piece of it. 2, our roads, our infrastructure, our travel. CVTA is not the reason that tourism is going to thrive, and tourism is not the reason CVTA is going to be successful. They're going to run parallel tracks. But the resources and the wind that CVTA give to the sales of this region as we move our region forward from a transportation standpoint, are going to give all the ammunition that tourism needs to be really successful in how we move people around our region. So, when we talk about complementary regional partnerships, we talk about the airport, right? Perry's got a wonderful commission. The airport commission is fantastic. I was privileged to serve on it for a few years. We talk about Richmond Region Tourism. We talk about things like that prove what our region can do when we work together. CVTA, I said it to the mayor a few weeks ago. I say it to Jim all the time. Every time I see him and Leslie in Chesterfield, it's going to provide rocket fuel for us as a region to do some of the things that we want. And it's another example of how we can be real successful together.
Thank you for that. Mrs. Page, I wanted to know, I'm going to move you over so that you can chime in with your comments if you'd like. If not, I can kind of read what you have put into the chat.
Thank you, Martha, for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say that when I think of and look at Richmond Regional Tourism, a lot of times we look at the larger locations. However, here in very rural New Kent County, we are beneficiaries of the benefits of having the support of the Richmond Regional Tourism. And we are so excited about how they keep our events on their websites, especially when I'm talking up our organization to our fellow board members, and we are publicizing on our YouTube board meetings. And when we speak of Richmond Regional Tourism, and then we see members that are actually at some of our ground breakings and our ribbon cuttings and our grand openings. And that shows that Richmond Regional Tourism not only just comes in and say, okay, we can do this, but they are a face. And being a country girl, it's nothing like seeing the people behind those that we are supporting, whether physically and financially. So there has been a great benefit to us having them to publicize. Of course, we are home to Colonial Downs and Rosie's, and they just did a magnificent job publicizing our Virginia Derby Day. And then when we did our new love sign, and we were so excited about that in front of our visitor center, and Richmond Regional Tourism was there. And I think that especially smaller localities, that matters. So they talk the talk and they walk the walk. And those are the type of things that that we care about as we grow. And, rural won't always remain rural, but it makes it very easy to be a spokesperson and a champion for this great organization. So I thank you on behalf of New Kent County for all you do for our locality and smaller localities as well as the larger population, because you could very easily say, they got a few wineries, but we're going somewhere else. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Page. Appreciate
That's
it.
it.
Yeah, thanks, Patricia Page. It's so good to hear your voice. She's a wonderful board member for Richmond Region Tourism. And that does bring up a point that we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of everything Richmond Region Tourism does, since we were talking about the tourism master plan. But a key point to mention is that on behalf of the investing jurisdictions that join Richmond Region Tourism, we promote all of the tourism related businesses. So it's not a membership organization, and the businesses themselves, the hotels and restaurants, don't have to join. They all get free listings on our website and promotions and event promotion and social media and all of those wonderful resources. And I think that's part of what Patricia was talking about. And so just while we're here, I thought I'd mention that so that everybody understands that if a jurisdiction joins Richmond Region Tourism and invests in us, then we represent all of their tourism assets.
Thanks, Catherine, for that. I'll also just put a little bit of a plug in for the services available through Richmond Region Tourism. For anyone who's listening that is involved with an association or some kind of a group that's looking to plan meetings, it's a great team to work with to be able to identify the right location, whether that's downtown or in one of the surrounding communities, and really to be able to put together those packages of not just the the meeting schedule, but the other amenities that we want to encourage attendees to take advantage of. And it's been great for me to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, the kind of full service of support that's provided by the team at Richmond Region Tourism, and especially as we look back to getting meetings here in the Richmond region. Jack, you said, let's not leave the area. Let's invite people in, and that's a great opportunity to do that. And that team is phenomenal to work with for anybody who wants a little bit of help with that. So, well, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for your time today. We appreciate the participation from all of our panelists, as well as so many of our attendees. It's been great to be able to have this series and really be able to highlight the great work that's happening in the Richmond region. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate everything you all are doing. I'll put a brief plug in before we leave. Next month, we'll be hosting another segment of the series, and we'll be talking about what it means to partner with the Hampton Roads region. And so kind of looking outside of the Richmond region and how do we think about recovery along the I-64 corridor and some of the exciting initiatives that are kicking off in partnership with another region in the Commonwealth. So great to have everybody here today, and we're so grateful for your time. Stay warm and stay safe. Thanks a lot, everyone.